Hello everybody, welcome. This is Drink Georgian, me, Daria, and today I'm talking to you again from Wine Exchange Wine Bar in Sabortalo, Tbilisi, and this huge lineup should give you a hint that today we are talking about Georgian red grape varieties and trying to find an alternative to Saperavi, or just an alternative actually to Supra wines. Do you know what Supra wines are? Well, I'm sure if you have traveled to Georgia, you have encountered this situation when people, especially in the rural area, they would serve only white or amber wine at the supras, at big feasts, in the countryside with a lot of food, and they would say that they serve white wine because you cannot drink a lot of red, and because red wine gives you headache, and because some other reasons. But yeah, the main idea behind that you cannot drink a lot of red wine with a lot of toast, with a lot of food, and that's bad. So if there are any Georgians watching this, guys, we might have some alternatives for you that will not cause you headache and that will make you Supra actually quite fun. So let's start with this one. So I kind of lined them up from the lightest to the heaviest, and today we start from Dzelshavi. Dzelshavi is a variety from Upper Imereti, and the producer I chose for you is Solomone Smarani. This winery is founded by David, whose grandfather was actually Solomone and was making wine in that area. Dzelshavi in this variation is one of my favorite because it's very light. It doesn't give you like some crazy acidity or some crazy body, but it's a very nice like glue option, and something definitely that would make your lunch go faster and more joyful. So I would start, definitely from this as an alternative to some heavy amber at the table. Then again, like I think I told it in the last video, but again, I love Shavkapito. Shavkapito is a variety from Shida Kartli, and it also grows in Kvemo Kartli, making a part of Bolnisi and eventually Suratuli Shala PDOs. But also now it's a part of Okami terroir and PDO, and it's just a base for many good wines that I really appreciate. The most known of them might be actually Chateau Mukhranis wine or wine artisans, and this one is Capistoni. Capistoni is a relatively small winery not far from Saguramo, and this Shavkapito is very fruity, very mild. It has medium body. It's really, again, I'm overusing this word, but it's really joyful. It's a wine you just can drink by itself and enjoy it for a long time. I think Shavkapito has a decent aging potential exactly due to this acidity that it has, but it's not a very disturbing acidity. So if you like relatively medium-bodied reds with a nice flavor profile, with a bit of pepper, with some like nice fresh red fruits there, it might be actually your choice. Then next we go and we immediately jump from Shida Kartli to western Georgia to Samegrelo. The main variety of Samegrelo is Ojaleshi. There is even a Salhino PDO there, which is again like not super popular, but I promised you to talk more about those, so here I am. Salhino was a growing area for Ojaleshi since centuries. Ojaleshi is a grape trained to grow on the trees on Maglari. Maglari is a Georgian word for this training system on the, basically it was on the trees until they invented this kind of pergolas. So Ojaleshi needs to grow high in order to get enough sun and in order not to get mildew, because Samegrelo is a humid area as well. It needs a good aeration between its leaves. So taste-wise, Ojaleshi is, you might know about sweet Ojaleshi, which is like the most popular option. Again, why? Because it's ripening late, and when the frost comes, maybe the fermentation was not over in the kind of good old times when the locals were using only kvevris for fermentation. And basically they were dependent on the temperature changes. So Ojaleshi was often semi-sweet by nature, just because the fermentation was stopping due to cold. Then it became a part of the industrial style too, but at the moment I'm presenting you a dry Ojaleshi. Like that's a fun label from La Bara, also like a small winery based in Samegrelo in Salhino. So this is one of like really good examples of Salhino PDO, one of very few one. It's not super alcoholic, it's 13%, while some Saperavis can be 14 or 15. The body is also medium. It has like nice ripe raspberries and blueberry notes on the nose, and it's very drinkable again by itself, but I would also advise to have it with some light food. Like very good pairing. So the first three are definitely like very gastronomic wines. Jgia, our next new friend. Jgia is a rare grape that grows mostly in Kakheti. Here in Wine Exchange I found only one option. Also a good friend of mine, Dzelshavi, is making excellent Jgia. This one is made by Vaho Shatirishvili in Lagodehi, so it's like easternmost part of Kakheti. Jgia is a berry forward grape, also medium bodied, not complicated, not too like sophisticated, but a very nice juicy fruity berry wine that can be your friend on a like moderately warm day, afternoon, evening. Also, like it might go with food or without food. It's a very fun wine, but yeah, again, don't expect too much from it. If you buy it from Georgia and think it's a rare grape variety, I mean, I wouldn't insist on aging it to discover its full potential. I would say like give it some rest after traveling with it and drink it now. Drink it now, enjoy guys, and yeah, I think you will like it. This one is easily likable in my opinion. Then comes Tavkveri, also like a very fun label, a child of Shida Kartli, also eventually can be a part of Bolnisi or Asuratuli Shala PDOs. And Tavkveri is also a girl like Asuratuli Shavi. So if you remember, I said that this is like Asuratuli Shavi and Tavkveri now. They are female grapes, so you need to plant them with Otskhanuri Sapere, Shavkapito in order for them to pollinate and create fruits. So yeah, Tavkveri is another girl among the Georgian grapes. Tavkveri is everything about dark fruits, ripe fruits, but the body is medium actually. So I have Tavkveri just here. You see, it's like it's quite easy, light, almost transparent wine, what you cannot say about Saperavi. Yeah, I had a fun case in Papari Valley Winery when our host Nukri Kurdadze just took a big glass with a bit of his Saperavi there and poured a liter of water inside, and the wine didn't become any more transparent. So this is not a case of Tavkveri. It has a like different body, different structure. It has nice medium tannin, so it's not an aggressive wine. But of course, if you make it in Kvevri and have it on skin for 6 months, it can actually be slightly more full-bodied, and then it develops kind of leathery notes, I would say, even early, even without aging. But in general, yeah, Tavkveri is definitely a like berry-forward wine. Also quite gastronomic one, doesn't necessarily need a steak, but some aged cheeses would do really well. Also some stews like chachokhbili probably. Like, yeah, of course I give you the Georgian recommendations, but that's what we have here. But actually I tried to pair Shavkapito with the Ukrainian borscht and it went well. So yeah, you can do things like that, like nobody can kind of say no to experiments. So yeah, if you're into experiments, just yeah, you can serve Tavkveri with different stews. Then yeah, what I have here, then I have Danakharuli. Yeah, Danakharuli is also a grape from Kartli. I wouldn't say that it's something like super sophisticated, but it can be really full-bodied. Berdia from Barbali Winery winery told me once that Danakharuli can be the next Saperavi, so much tannins and body it can get eventually. This is slightly lighter take on it, still pretty much full-bodied, sometimes aggressive, but yeah, I mean, still lighter than Saperavi or Cabernet, for example. I would put it somewhere closer to Merlot, but to a simple one. So didn't taste any like super sophisticated Danakharuli yet, but I think this grape has a potential as also like just a simple, fine, like fun red wine to drink. So give it a chance. This one is from La Miscana Estate in Kartli. Then finally from Kartli we move again westwards, and here we have Otskhanuri Sapere. Otskhanuri Sapere from Nano Winery, Jgia, a real wine geek, a person who has a unique nursery in his backyard. It's basically more than like 50 different Georgian rare grape varieties in one small space. And also like many international ones. So he's a big fan of also like experiments in the vineyards and in the cellar. He makes several white wines on skins, like Emiratian wines, which is not often the case. And his Otskhanuri Sapere, I find it one of the most interesting ones in the Georgian like red wine spectrum. Otskhanuri Sapere is also the Tenturia grape, so it's like Saperavi. It has the red flesh and red skin, so even if you make direct press and keep it a bit on skin, it already has color. Jgia is keeping it on skin for at least 1 month, so of course it depends on the vintage, on the weather conditions and many other factors, but yeah, this one is really dark, and yeah, it's has slightly like earthy notes in the end. Also for Otskhanuri Sapere, the licorice notes are quite typical. It can be quite harsh in the first couple of years, so I wouldn't recommend to buy a young Otskhanuri Sapere unless you want to age it in a like proper conditions. So yeah, I would say yeah, go for it if you have the time to wait, or go for the older one if you just want some decent, interesting red wine that is not Saperavi. Actually, yeah, I have this Otskhanuri here. The viscosity, kind of the structure is quite strong, and yeah, definitely licorice. So like an Otskhanuri Sapere, well made. Then this body here comes to us from Racha, Aleksandrouli. Aleksandrouli is a grape that you can actually grow in many places. It doesn't require too much labor, because there are some grapes that require a lot. So this is kind of not very yeah, not very demanding. It's quite easy to grow, and that's why in Racha it's a lot of it, and it's a base of a famous semi-sweet Khvanchkara wine, a legendary Khvanchkara that became legendary mostly during the Soviet time, and basically is very beloved by people from the post-Soviet countries that still remember this like sweetness. Aleksandrouli is also a very fruity wine. This take on it is quite heavy, but again, not as heavy as Saperavi. But if you're a fan of like full-bodied, fruity red wines, this can be your friend. If it saw a barrel at least for a year, it will get the tannins like very round and very pleasant. I would say that the barrel suits to Aleksandrouli. This one was made in Tavkveri by Tariel Lomtadze, also the winemaker. Not in the first generation, like in his family, he's not the first winemaker. It was always in his blood. And he and his wife Sofo are making wine in Khvanchkara microzone. But they are not only doing what the public demands, they also go for their own tastes. And a really nice, juicy, dry wine is offered by them. And I suggest you taste it once you see it somewhere. And the last for today is something like a tricky grape made by John Okro from Signahi, one of the most famous natural winemakers in Georgia. So actually John was the first person who ever wrote Saperavi Budeshuri Sebri on the label. Once he was kind of finding his waves in the labeling. I think even the National Wine Agency told him that it's impossible to write something like this because Budeshuri or Saperavi Budeshuri Sapere is a clone, so you cannot name a clone something different. But in fact, they are very close relatives. But yeah, it's the grape form that is changed and that makes it distinctive, and also some like aromas that are never present in Saperavi. So to me, this wine is quite leathery, much more spicy and much more structured than many of Saperavis. So many Saperavis can be just like bold, like it's a big round thing, and this one has higher acidity and is kind of more aromatic. So once you take a glass, the aroma is coming immediately. It's kind of more approachable one, I would say, like an approachable cousin of Saperavi. And now there are many more winemakers that actually write Budeshuri or Saperavi Budeshuri Sapere on the label. However, some of them don't. And once I smelled something like, as I said, like this leather and crushed red currants, then I think, yeah, maybe it's Budeshuri. And then I ask the winemaker, and almost always I am right. So this is quite distinctive, and I also suggest you taste it, and please let me know if you ever did, because I love feedback. And yeah, thanks so much for going through this long line with me today. Please let me know if you tasted some of these varieties or some of these wines. What are your opinions about them? And yeah, I would be delighted to hear from you. And also, like the last moment, I actually wanted to highlight, if you still feel very confused about those, because I touched all of the varieties very briefly, and if you want to kind of have some decent reading about that, but also like not super nerdy, very approachable, then I suggest you get this book. I recommended it because I find it useful, not because somebody paid me. So this is Lisa Granik's Guide to Georgian Wines, the recent edition. The presentation was held in December 2022 here in Wine Exchange, and it's planned to release the updates yearly. So it's not a wine tourism guide. It's the guide exactly to wineries and wines. It has a rating system, and also in the end it has a nice directory of grape varieties and like some main tips about the region, something that you might find useful. So if you have kind of something tangible about Georgian wine, I find this book a very good present to yourself or to your wine-loving friend, and yeah, a very good navigator in the crazy world of Georgian wine, because yeah, as you can see, we have a lot of grape varieties. Some of them are very hard to pronounce, and yeah, I can imagine how confusing it can be. That's why bear with me as well. I'm happy to bring to you more interesting and useful information about Georgian wine. So just in the comment section, please tell me what else you would like to learn, and I will think how to serve it to you. Right. Thank you very much. Stay safe and drink Georgian. Gagi Marjat.